Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Elisa here with Thoughtful Creativity, and thank you so much for tuning in. Now, since we've been talking quite a bit on the channel about sewing pants, then in this quick and easy video I would love to share with you the way that I draft a very simple zipper fly and a guard that comes with it, and also a couple of ways how you can go about drafting a waistband as well. Now, I know that we're talking about pants, but you can use the same technique for sewing skirts as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go ahead and start with a front pattern piece and with the fly. This is the front pattern piece for wide leg linen pants that I made some time ago. This is the crotch area and this is the side seam, and this was just the line for the pocket. Now we're going to be working with this part of our pants pattern. Now usually I like to make my fly, my zipper fly, about 1.5 inches wide. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to extend this line right over here. I'm going to extend it by about 1.5 inches. Then what I want to do is I want to draft a parallel line to the center front. So down from this edge right over here where we marked 1.5 inches, I'm going to go ahead and just drop a straight line. It can be as long as you want, and I will explain what to do with that just in about a second. Now we need to create that curve of the fly, and usually I like to do that before the curve of the crotch line starts right over here. Otherwise it's going to be really difficult for you to insert that zipper, and it's just not going to look right. So I'm going to go ahead and find the spot about right over here, just about, I would say, 1/4 inch above where that curve really starts to be quite pronounced. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do a straight perpendicular line like so. Now we have a little rectangle from here down to here and down to here and back up. And I just want to go ahead and curve in this side just like so. You can use a French curve if you have, or you can use any sort of round object. Just put it right over here and go ahead and outline that, and there you go. So now that was pretty easy and straightforward, right? Now in order to do a fly guard, what I like to do is I just like to go ahead and fold over my piece of paper like so, and I'm gonna go ahead and outline the part that we just drafted. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it like so. This is going to be a separate pattern piece, so these are not connected at all. Now what I like to do is I just like to draft my guard just like a rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to restore it back to its original shape that we started from. And sometimes I like it to be just a tiny bit longer, maybe 1/4 inch longer than the original piece. And of course, depends on how you're going to assemble your zipper fly. You will need to add seam allowances to this piece, and you will also need to cut either 2 of these, or you will need to cut them on the fold. So you will need to cut a double layer of that, either 2 of these pattern pieces, or you will cut 1 but on the fold. And this is how it looks when our pattern pieces are cut. If you are constructing your zipper fly just like I do when it's attached to the front pattern piece, your left and your right front pattern pieces are going to be cut exactly the same. Alright, now that we got done with drafting the zipper fly, let's go ahead and move on to the waistbands. This first one is probably the easiest way how to go about drafting your waistband. It's basically a rectangle. So what we want to do is, here we have the front pattern piece and here we have the back pattern piece. You want to go ahead and grab your ruler or a measuring tape. Measuring tape is a little bit easier to navigate in this situation, so I definitely suggest that. And what we want to do is, first we want to measure on the front pattern piece from the side seam all the way to the center front. And this time I don't want to measure the zipper fly extension just yet, and I'll explain why in just about a second. So let's go ahead and place your measuring tape and measure the top right over here up until the zipper fly. Then we're going to move on to the back pattern piece, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. The only difference is this time we have a dart. So we want to measure from here all the way till here, and then we're gonna restart measuring right over here and end at the side seam. So the same way, you're gonna go ahead and grab your measuring tape, measure from one point to another, and then from that point all the way to the side seam. The reason for that is because once this dart is sewn, obviously this volume is not going to be counted, and the piece, when it's completed, is going to be from here till here and from here till here in total width. If you have your darts on the front pattern piece of your shorts, your pants, your skirts, your culottes, whatever you're making, you're going to repeat exactly the same thing as we did right here on the back pattern piece. Now what we want to do is we want to take a new piece of paper, like so, and we want to draft our rectangle. The rectangle is going to be the width of the front pattern piece that we measured up until the zipper fly, plus what we measured right over here, excluding the width of the dart. So when I sum one and the other together, it's going to be 15.5 inches in my case, so 15.5 inches from here to there. For the short sides of my rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and take about 2 inches. You can take any length that you would like, however you want your waistband to be. It's totally up to you. You might as well take into account the width of your belt if you're going to be wearing your pants or your skirts with the belt. So definitely keep all of those things in mind. Now this length right over here is the front and back pattern piece, and that is not including this little zipper fly extension, and we do need to add that in. The reason for it is because this little zipper fly extension on one side of your pants is going to be as part of your front pattern piece, but on the other it actually folds under. So on one side we will need to extend the length of the waistband to match this front pattern piece plus the zipper fly, but on the other one we don't have to do that because it just folds over, and it's just going to be this length that we measured originally. So what to do? Now this waistband right over here, without being cut on the fold, represents half of what we need as the waistband because we measured the front pattern piece and the back pattern piece. But in reality, the pants that we're going to be constructing are going to be 2 front pattern pieces and 2 back pattern pieces. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure this little fly extension, which was 1.5 inches in total length, and I'm going to divide that in half, and by that amount I'm going to extend this little rectangle right over here. And as a result, this waistband is going to be cut on the fold, and it's going to match perfectly because, again, on one side you will have that zipper fly extension, but on the other it's going to fold over. This little extension piece is just half of what we have over here. So when cut on the fold, it's going to match one width of the zipper fly perfectly. And of course, as we have marked this on the fold, don't forget that for the waistband, if you want this to be the final width of the waistband, you will need to add seam allowances and cut 2 of these pieces both on the fold, or if you don't want the seam at the top edge right over here, you will need to cut it on the fold the other direction as well. So on the fold here and on the fold right over here. So it's definitely up to you how you want to construct your pants, so definitely remember about that. This next way of drafting the waistband for my pants, skirts, shorts, culottes, or anything that goes on the bottom part of my body is probably my favorite, and you can see it very clearly right over here. And this one fits me really well, and that's the reason why I love it. Here at the center back you see there is a seam, but it's actually not a straight seam. It is curved on the angle, therefore it gives me a better fit on my waistbands, at least in my situation. So basically we're going to start with the same waistband that we drafted in option number 1, just a rectangle with one minor addition or one minor thing that we're going to add. So here, let me show you visually why these kind of waistbands don't always fit me well. If you fold it in and if you place it on top of your front pattern piece, let's just imagine that this is a side seam, for example, and you place it like so, and then we just, try to give it the best curve that we can with the paper. Here, the side seam curves, and then with the waistband, it just continues kind of like as a straight piece because the waistband itself is a straight rectangle. Now, in my case, my body doesn't go from curve to straight. It actually curves in a little bit more. Now, in order to make this waistband fit me much better, what I do is I measure the difference between where my pants sit on my body before the waistband is added. So the circumference of this place right over here as it sits on my body. And I take another measurement of where my waistband is going to sit, which can be about 2 or 3 inches or however many inches you want up from this spot right over here. Now let's imagine that if you take one measurement minus the other measurement and the difference is 1 inch, we know that this waistband has been cut on the fold, so 1 inch is the total difference between two full circumferences. So on the fold, that would be half an inch. So what I do is from here, from the fold position, I'm gonna go ahead, mark half an inch, and then like so. As a result, this part right over here is going to look like so, and when you're going to be cutting it on the fold on the top part, it's going to look like so. And as that is going to give you a waistband that looks like that when completed. And you don't have to do that on the center back. You can also do this at the side seams as well. Obviously, the position of this part is going to be different than for the center back, but definitely try it out. I've mentioned this on the channel many times when we did different methods on how to sew cuffs and other waistbands. So definitely this is not the first time that I mentioned that, but I just really wanted to outline this one more time, that this is a really great option of how to create a waistband that sits tighter to your body. Another method that I would like to share with you is the one that I used in my summer skirt that was inspired by Encanto. Now here, the main idea is that we're not drafting a completely new separate piece of our pattern, but instead we're using what we already have in our pattern. And what I mean by that is, right over here, I have created a little overlay. So if I place this on top of my existing pattern, you will see that the gray lines are what we have currently right over here, and the orange lines are the extension of the pattern. So a lot of times, in majority of the cases, your pants, your shorts, your skirts, everything that goes on the bottom part of your body are going to be started as a draft from the waist down, and then we cut away the part so that way our pants or our skirts or our shorts aren't that high-waisted. So instead of cutting that part away, you can go ahead and use that part as your waistband, because it repeats the curves and the measurements of your body perfectly. So here I have the little extension, 1.5 inches long from the pants up, and I've done exactly the same thing right over here on the front pattern piece. So you can see the gray lines repeat exactly what we have, and the orange is that little extension. So what you're going to do is you're gonna go ahead and cut them apart like so. And we're going to close this dart. So I'm closing this dart like so. So this is our back pattern piece for our waistband, and this is the front pattern piece for our waistband. Over here, of course, you're gonna true up the top line so that way it's nice and smooth. And over here on the front pattern piece, of course, don't forget that one is going to have the fly extension and the other one won't. And you will have the side seams and the center back seam on this waistband as you would have that on your regular pattern pieces for your pants or skirts as you would sew them together. So this is another way how to go about that. Of course, there are many ways how you can go about it in sewing, but this is the way that I go about it, and I find it really easy and very straightforward. Now, if you want to know how to sew a zipper fly in the most simple but effective way, then go ahead and click right over here on this video. I'll guide you step by step with examples and really clear visuals on how to get that done. So click right over here, and I'll see you very soon in that video. Bye!